Can we make the best better? 2 movements, endless repetition, bar bending weight. In a sport so pure, very seldom is there disruption, where a company looks at the problem differently and decides that they can do better, and we get to question, if today's elite could start all over again, would things be different? This is the TYR L-1 Lifter, and I'm going to tell you why it can potentially disrupt an industry. If you haven't heard of TYR before, I'm not surprised. Where Nike and Adidas dominate at sponsorship deals and PR campaigns at the very top level, TYR's decided to approach the market in a new way, from the bottom up, appealing to people like you and like me, coaches, geeks, people that are always looking for the sharpest edge of the blade. And they've done that by thinking outside of the box. When they designed the L1, they weren't just looking to reinvent the wheel, they strapped an engine to it and made it go vroom. At first glance, the TYR looks about how you would expect. It's got 3 colorways in the first release. They've also got the very standard lace plus adjustable double strap closing mechanism so you can tailor the fit, ventilation through the tongue and through the toe box as well to help keep the airflow moving, and a really nicely cushioned ankle and tongue, plus a pretty unique split insole design. Now, I haven't figured out what that's for quite yet, so if you know the answer to that, make sure you hit me up down in the comments below this video. Material wise, the shoe feels very premium. The heel is made from something called TPU, which is a very similar material to your iPhone case. It takes a lot of abuse, but I have heard some complaints of these having a little bit more give than something like the Ramello. The upper is Corridora-esque faux leather, which so far seems to be very durable. So I'm expecting these very much to stand the test of time with a life cycle of years, not months, which at the price point, $200 US or about $280 Canadian, you would very much hope to expect. Now, all of that stuff is really nice, but none of that amounts to industry disruption. That comes from the S word, stability. The one thing that every weightlifting shoe until today has omitted from their design process is giving the lifter a natural base, the appropriate foundation to lift from. Imagine for a moment that your body is a building and that the barbell is an earthquake. Under perfect circumstances, on a perfect day, your training has designed a structurally sound building. It can move and flow with the quake, and technically it can adapt on the fly. Sometimes though, there are variables. Someone drops a plate behind you which distracts you for a moment, your favorite muscle mummy walks in, all of a sudden those perfect circumstances, they don't exist anymore. That's where lifts get missed. What the L1 does is it increases your foundation, it increases your base of support with something called an anatomical toe box. Instead of your toes doing this, they allow your toes to do this, and that small design actually increases your contact patch by up to 30%. Within 6 months of wearing minimalist shoes, your feet strength can increase by up to 60%. And if you think for a moment about how many lifts that you have individually missed because you've fallen forward in the bottom of a clean or a snatch, or how many split jerks have gone for a walk because you couldn't quite find your balance, that's what these shoes can potentially rectify. If you agree, let me know down below. If you disagree, do the same thing. And while you do, make sure that you press that subscribe button, because these are the latest addition to my 10,000 subscriber giveaway, as well as all of these other awesome prizes that are on the screen right now. Now though, I think it's really important that I go down to the gym to test these out, and you are coming with me. Today's a strength day and we're putting the TYRs through 3 test lifts. I've been running a squat cycle over the past few weeks. It's one of my favorite squat cycles. It put 90 pounds on my 3RM last time that I used it. The fit on these feels pretty good at the moment. They're definitely fitting differently to the Primus Lights. You expect that. They are much tighter, and to be honest, the toe box isn't as noticeable as I would have liked. Could have perhaps gone for a size up, but hopefully they'll give a little bit. And the plan here is to build to 350 pounds for 7 reps on a low bar, just to limit my use of my ankle mobility. That's where the bar sits across the upper back as opposed to high on my traps like a high bar. And I'll let my long-suffering athlete and girlfriend Maddie demo the difference for you, because she's working out as well. First thing to notice, she's only wearing socks. She's got that bar up high on her traps, which is why you'll see me with a forward torso position where she's staying right upright, and she drops straight down and he's sailing forward of her toes, which is the biggest benefit a lot of people will see wearing heel elevated lifting shoes. Not having enough ankle mobility in a squat restricts depth, Maddie hasn't got that issue. She's just as proficient at squatting barefoot as I am. But if she did, the 21mm heel that these TYRs have got would almost definitely fix it. A really good way to find out if you also have that problem is to try dropping into a squat like Maddie here. And if you can't hit full depth, put a couple of books or a plate underneath your heels and then try again. If that unlocks the range for you, then it's your ankle mobility that's holding you back. Anyway, starting to load the bar. At this point, I'm not loving the heel lift, definitely feeling out of position, but that flat wide base is helping counteract it a bit. This is 225 pounds, still hitting good depth, still coming out quickly, but it feels heavier than it should. Personally, I always like to load in 90-pound increments, so the next jump is up to 315, and even though I'm not convinced on how these feel at the moment, I'm not going to be changing that for a shoe. And to be honest, this feels like shit. The shoes are solid, they're stable, but they're too far and away from what I'm used to using at this point. So now I'm sufficiently annoyed, lack of power in the bottom position, so I'm gonna have to swap out back to my lights for the rest of the workout. For squats at least, the TYRs for me are a fail. The toe box is definitely wider and therefore better than normal lifters, but I can tell you right now, it's narrower than my Primus lights, which with the heel lift, I'm really starting to notice with some load on the bar. My quads are working a lot more than usual, my hips are starting to shoot up. It's not bad, it's just different from my normal flat lifting style, but with peak week next week, I can't afford to let some shoes fuck up my lifts. If you're currently squatting in Reebok, Adidas or Nike lifters or trainers, these are definitely going to be a big step forward and an obvious pass, but if like me, you're used to squatting barefoot, stick to that, avoid these TYRs. I really like loading these straight away, so I'm starting at 225. Right off the bat, they feel much better here than the squats. The toe box makes sense, so does the TPU heel raise. Another 90-pound jump to 315. I'm getting a little bit of a stripper squat happening here in the pull, but again, going from flat to heel means that positionally, I'm just not familiar with loading from the bottom position. I'm 50-50 on them so far. They've got a pass for the snatch grip deadlifts, got a fail for the squat. It all comes down to the last test, which is the push press. What I'm really interested to see in these is how they handle the dip. I mentioned at the start of the video that I'd heard rumours of the TPU having some give in it. Now, what I don't want is to feel as though the TPU is absorbing the force that I'm trying to put down into the ground to get this bar over my head. The dip, I'm expecting that to feel a little bit weird. It does, just for the same reason as the squats and the snatch grip deadlift, just being alien to that heel elevation. But so far, the TPU feels solid. I'm not feeling any give yet, nor am I noticing anything on the squat or the deadlift, so I'm going to assume that we're in the clear. Now, loading on this movement is not done in 90-pound increments, that's for sure, and annoyingly at this point, my temper is getting pretty frayed from missing my target on squats and snatch grip deadlifts. But it definitely feels easier to keep the upright torso that you want here in the push press. That really flat, hard sole feels very nice and stable. And at this point in the session, the ventilation seems to be working really well. Now, as that weight's starting to climb a little bit for me, I'm getting a lot of stability through these shoes. They're not moving around at all. They're really grabbing onto the rubber floor. It's a very confidence-inspiring feeling. I'm feeling very precise, very aware of where my body is. So on the push press, these get a unanimous pass. Now, I'll be honest, I got home and I was pretty annoyed about today's session. I feel like there was a lot left on the table in the tank, and it's hard to tell if that's because of the shoes, if it's because I went off camping over the weekend, or because I'm still getting comfortable training and recording. But looking at the footage, there were a lot of technical errors that I wouldn't normally be making. I have my 10,000 hours with training, probably 100,000 at this point, so my movement is almost automated, which means that it's probably going to be the shoes. Are the TYR L-1 Lifters BSP approved? Honestly, if you're into Olympic lifting or CrossFit or another hybrid lifting sport where you're going to be training in nanos or metcons or using designated lifting shoes, I honestly think that the L1 is a bit of a no-brainer. Even as a barefoot athlete that lifts, runs, lives in minimalist shoes, I can see the value in them and the potential that they offer. Does that mean that they work for me? No. but they do bridge the gap. They blend the performance of traditional weightlifting shoes and the stability of anatomically designed barefoots. Could they be the key in unleashing the potential of the next generation of lifters? I think they might just be, especially if they start to open up the toe box a little bit more, but time's going to tell. What I definitely think though is that these are a unicorn shoe, and for a new brand to the weightlifting and minimalist space to really come in guns blazing, doing things differently, I think the future's really bright, and I wouldn't be surprised if some big brands start following suit soon. If you want to learn more about the shoes I do lift in, the Primus Lights, then this is the video that you want to check out up here. There's also a sweet discount code below this video if you want to get some for yourself. If you want to see what an Olympian has to say about the L1s, I've linked a video from Sonny Webster's channel down below in the video description. Stay strong.